So while we go back, here's the actual physical book. You can see that. Let me take my ugly face out of the way. And here's the back cover. You can see that also. Make sure get the light right. Well, you can see the cover. You know, if I do the screen share, you see the cover in full like that, and then the back cover description, and there's a little cartoon as well. You can see the cartoon, Bina?
Yes.
On the
Yes.
screen right now.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the cartoon on the back cover. You see? So so just my anti-bullshit act. Please ignore it and keep talking. And then that's the back cover description. You know,
Okay.
you just the blurb on the back. You know, and the blurb on the back, I don't even want to read it right now because we have to understand that when it comes to blurbs are commercials, really, and that's their purpose. They're there to advertise the book, so they're not always representative of the book precisely because they're an advert.
But still, I want to read that.
Right? Did I hear somebody join or somebody make a comment? I thought I heard something. Oh, maybe it's on your side. Right.
Maybe. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Nah, it's all good. It's all good. All right. So Donna's here too. Brilliant, brilliant. Donna's on Facebook. Donna, you know the drill with Zoom. If you want to join us on Zoom, just if you want to ask in voice questions rather than type or comments, either way, So just I'm doing the screen share. That's why you see a double Facebook there now because I went to come and check you on Facebook. So Bina,
Yes.
yes, you're also looking at the screen, but
Yes.
every now and then, or just have a look at the comments on Facebook. Oh, maybe I should. I'm going to do this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, split my windows so that I can see the comments while I'm reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. All right. There we go. Brilliant. I'm thrilled you're here, Donna. We were just talking about you and how magical you are and how we were enjoying interacting with you, Donna. So, all right. Can you still read that? Okay, Rowadies now, Bina.
Let me see. Okay. Yes.
All right.
It
All
is
right.
on my screen.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just in the front of the book in the contents. There's a lot of contents. There's a lot of content. All right. So here we go. Let's begin.
Okay.
Chapter
Chapter.
0.
Yeah. Chapter 0. It's unusual that we have chapter 0 also.
The reason I put chapter 0 is because to say a prologue or an introduction or a forward or anything of those, just in modern times people tend to skip those. So that's
Exactly.
why I say chapter 0 instead, because that's really what it is. It's the introduction of the prologue. Um, but there's a logic behind it. So I like to say just chapter 0, empowerment and what's in it for you. So this sets the tone for the whole book to say, hey, whoa, wait a second. This is actually about empowerment, this book. And this is the point and purpose of this book. When it came about, Elevia was very immersed in this at the time, and she felt really, really, really strongly, powerfully, that she wanted to share everything about the bullshit and the BMNs, bullshit manipulator narcissist. That's what BMN stands for. And she wanted to share it so that others that are in similar situations can deal with it and don't have to kind of struggle through it, because Elevia at least had tools beforehand. So she didn't, it wasn't like a super negative thing. It didn't, really throw her completely out of herself and all that. But if you don't have those tools, this can be very devastating, as many people know. Most people that I know have had experience with BMNs, and some more than others, and they know firsthand how devastating this can be. But if we have the tools, if we're empowered, in other words, then we can deal with it. And yes, they aren't fun to deal with, but nonetheless, it doesn't have to be devastating. And it can be quite a challenge too, and we can learn from it, and we can grow from it, and we can move from it, and we can actually turn a negative into a positive. So the first point here is taking a stand. We have to take a stand against deception, take action against all lying, and together as a society, using awareness, discernment, and understanding, empower ourselves to call bullshit against bullshit. This is super huge. It's absolutely essential. Bullshit is a mind virus, obscuring reality, disguising truth, and disconnecting us from sensibility, robbing us of our power and freedom. What are we after as individuals? We want to make sense of the world. We want to be able to deal with the world, not to be victims or to be taken advantage of. Basically, we want to be able to see what's what. We want to know what's going on. Why don't we have this? Because of bullshit. All right, so that's the little short introduction, and then there's the cartoon again. Hugo was determined to put an end to his deja vu. His awareness sword glowed whenever he encountered punk, malarkey, mumbo jumbo, flub-dub, fiddle-faddle, Akamarcus, Tommy Rock, crap spackle, brotherly poop, twaddlecock, boulder crap, gentleman cow manure, and truthiness. So anyway, we just put in the cartoon, so each chapter has at least one cartoon, because it breaks up the seriousness of the topic. And it's not always a positive topic, so we sought to lighten it up and to bring in positivity. All right. So the key here is that really this book it's a self-improvement book, because it's focused on the empowerment of self. Now, it's going to be dealing with empowerment relative to dealing with bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissists, but really also it's dealing with ourselves. And yes, we're going to focus on the excess that we see out there in bullshit manipulator narcissists. They're egregious and they're easy to spot all of the excess. It's easy to spot their preposterousness. It's easy to spot their obfuscation. It's easy to spot all the idiocy that they do, the facade, the deception. But in ourselves, we have to understand that psychology, that is a psychology that comes from way back. It's legacy psychology, it's primitive psychology, it's animal psychology. It's literally in our brainstem, which is still in us. And we don't just have one brain, as people think. We have multiple brains. So this is brainstem psychology, which can, for some people, take over and be predominant. So the point here is that this entire psychology and the understanding of what we're about, it's in all of us. Right? Now, how much it's activated, that depends on the individual. But to be able to know and recognize the subtleties within ourselves, this is profoundly useful. So let's continue. Any questions, anyone, before we go further?
From my side, yes, I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, in the beginning, you said that BS is a virus.
I said, say again?
BS is a mind virus.
Right.
Yes, this is something really interesting. Because if we say that it is a virus, it means that we are aware of, we could be aware of it, but we have no control over it. Because virus mostly are self. It's a mechanism. It's a mechanism, you can say that. Because it's a software. It's a kind of software in a program, or you can say that a program.
Exactly.
Yes. And it just continue operating in our mind.
Right.
If we assume that BS is a mind virus, it means that we have no control over it.
Right.
We can have.
We can control it in the same way as a virus on your computer. You eliminate it and you wipe it out. But that's the thing. When you say no control, yes, you're kind of touching on something. It's sort of an either-or deal, that you either get rid of it or you're part of it. There isn't like a virus. You can't say, well, I've reduced the virus. You either have it or you don't on your computer. And the same with bullshit. There isn't a middle ground, and that's where people get lost. So you touch on a very powerful point. They think they can control, and well, I'm just bullshitting a little. A little bullshit is still bullshit. A little virus is still a virus.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
But
very important.
the, if we assume, if we just assume that the BS is a mind virus, so we accept that it is planted by society or culture or religion or politics or whatever, and are brought up in it.
Yes, yes. And it
Then,
typically comes, we'll get into it later in the book. It does come from that legacy, our primitive brain, our animal mindset, and there's a reason for that. And we'll get into that in detail. But yeah,
yes,
it's not something that's necessarily inherent in us, from us personally. It is something that is somewhat from the outside. Yes. Now, of course, we can also, for reasons of our own, decide to deliberately want to engage in bullshit. So we
oh,
can be the creators of the virus too, much like computer viruses. So
yeah.
now
So,
that's very
so
interesting, the comparison. The other part of bullshit and the
yes,
being as a virus, that viruses can jump and they tend to be contagious, so we have to understand that bullshit is in the same way, that we can spread it, we can infect others with it, and we can catch it as a contagion from others. So this is
ex-
very
ex-
powerful.
exactly. No matter how small or how simple the mind virus we have in our mind, I'm just assuming it like we have in our computers, like the software
Yes,
virus. I'm just
yes,
assuming it like that, not in a medical term. So if if even a small and a simplest form of virus we have in our computer system or in our mind, it could corrupt. Uh,
yes,
it's
absolutely,
a huge
absolutely,
possibility. It could corrupt
absolutely. Yes,
every
yes,
everything,
right.
your whole
So
intention and everything. So
exactly, exactly.
one must be, or I could say for myself, like I should be aware and really persistent to control or eliminate this completely.
Yes.
Otherwise, affect all other things. So it is
Right.
really an amazing term that BS is a mind virus. I just
It's
love that.
huge. It's huge. The massive. I love your unpacking of that density, because that is a very dense statement to say bullshit is a mind virus. It's huge, and you unpacking all the implications inherent in that, and it's profound. And as you say too, when you have a little virus on your computer, people don't realize this, but having a virus there makes you susceptible to more viruses, right? Because they can be a doorway for other viruses to enter into your computer. So that's very powerful. Also, it opens up more. So, yes, we can tolerate a little bit of a virus, a small, maybe petty virus on our computer, but it's problematic because it can lead to more. And those
Yeah.
viruses over time, a computer virus, literally, they start small, but they grow over time. Also, many people don't realize that they just think a virus is a static thing. No, it isn't. It grows if not dealt with. So that's the other part. We can become familiarized or um, um, acclimatized to having some bullshit in us. And say, oh, it's just a little bit of bullshit. It's no big deal. And we're going to get into this in the book. And that's a problem right there. That where now you say, oh, you can kind of get used to it. And then you start to begin to tolerate more and more and more. And then look at the world we live in today. We have a situation where we are inundated with bullshit from the top down. And it's become, well, it's just there. Yes, there are people who don't accept it, but at the same token, it's so unacceptable, it should never be there in the first place. So this is a big deal. Now,
Okay.
this book, very specifically, it's not about bullshit in politics or on the top. Despite the example that's so flagrant right now, that's in our faces, it actually it's to dealing with bullshit in our everyday life. It is to catch that major bullshitter that we see on TV every day. It is to deal with them when they were somebody that you knew at some point, that those national, internationally famous bullshitters now. They were somebody's brother, cousin, uncle, friend, and you knew them. And that's when we need to deal with them before they become empowered as bullshitters themselves, because then they start to run away with themselves, and then they get into the full-blown BMN, bullshit manipulator narcissist status, and that's what we wish to avoid. So we have to catch them in our personal lives. We are the ones who have that responsibility for dealing with bullshit in our day-to-day, everyday lives, so that it doesn't grow and spread. So we have that ethical responsibility towards the world also to deal with it in our personal lives. Right?
Yes.
All right, so let's read on a little bit here. Our awareness, our perceptions, our understandings, all too often are severely compromised by what's simply nonsense. Not only distortion pushed by individuals, but the falsehoods contained in convention. We grow up simply absorbing much that's rubbish, many misbeliefs, faulty beliefs, cockeyed practices, and standards which compromise us as individuals. Mostly we're unaware of what we're unaware of, a difficult problem. Our aim is to draw attention to what affects us as individuals via bullshit and bullshitters, using these as a mechanism for not only spotting and understanding distortion, but for knowing ourselves. Seeing bullshit, knowing bullshit, recognizing bullshit are powerful abilities which result from us developing that all important trio of awareness, discernment, and understanding. Ability is vitally important for the war with deception we find ourselves in, a war in which our independence of being is at stake. If we can't spot the corruption, we don't even know we're being compromised, never mind how exactly. If we can't recognize bullshit, we can't recognize how we're being manipulated. Right? So that's really huge. Again, we're making this, the point here is this book, it's about you, your personal growth, about your awareness, discernment, and understanding. Yes, we are going to look in detail at bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissist so that we can understand them. That's the power. Through that understanding, we get to know ourselves better. Not only that, but we develop our skills of awareness, discernment, and understanding. Because the skill to discern and to be aware and to really understand bullshit and bullshitters, because they are so sneaky, because they are so underhanded, because they are so covert, that is very powerful. We get to see beyond the surface. Now, this applies to spotting nefarious and negative content like bullshit, but it also applies to discerning positivity and to discern magic and to discern all the awesome of the world. Look at what we've been in our progression in terms of doing the Way of Impeccability program, Bina. Wasn't that as we've progressed in that, we've developed that discernment to see more, to see the layers, to see the connectedness, right? That's all discernment, right? And it's awareness and understanding. The difference in you and say in Donna and others in terms of the progression and the changes of self, it is because of precisely that awareness, discernment, and understanding, right? Bina, you still there? No, Bina must have dropped off. All right, no worries. So we got a nice little quote here, which we love. Self-empowerment is fun. Donna, are you still with us as well? Yeah, Bina's connection dropped. Donna, if you're still here, I'm curious, just in terms of what I was saying, in terms of how potent and empowering awareness, discernment, and understanding is, and how it's made a difference. So, if you're still there, leave a comment on that. Yes, Donna says, brilliant, brilliant. All right, so yeah, it's huge, it's huge. I'm just looking for our feedback, so it's not just me saying things, that there is some connectivity to it. All right, so just before I read a little bit further, this is the way the book is written. It's written that it doesn't have to be read from start to finish. It doesn't need to be linear. Yes, to read chapter 0, it's useful. It impacts everything correct. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And we are using this mechanism of bullshit to develop our abilities of awareness, discernment, and understanding. Why use this particular mechanism? Because it's real, because it does impact us, and because it is significant. Now, if we only have that mindset to be looking, yes, I'm all for unrelenting positivity, and we have to apply unrelenting positivity in everything. We need to be able to deal with the negative in a positive way. And this is what we are doing. Yes, bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissists are negative. Brilliant. Venus back. So bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissists, yes, they are negative. However, we are going to deal with them from a positive viewpoint because we are going to say, we are going to use you to raise our awareness, discernment, and understanding, to develop our skills of insight, our skills of dealing with things, our emotional management, our mood management, all sorts of things we're going to do. So we are going to use this to say, hey, we are learning and growing, and we have the ability to deal with this. Now, if we only focus on easy, positive ways that it's fun, okay, I'm going to go to a retreat or a seminar or something, and it's all fun and it's all lovely. I'm learning, yes, but if I'm never dealing with stuff that's negative and unpleasant, I might be a little bit hollow when it comes to my ability to deal with the fullness of life. So that's very important. We can't be hollow. We have to be able to deal with crap. It's absolutely vitally important. Why? Because it's part of life. So we can't be hollow. We can't be a hollow spirit warrior that only is able to be a warrior when conditions favor us. No, we need to be able to be a spirit warrior when we have to deal with things like bullshit manipulator narcissists. So this is very important because they are a part of daily life. It's not like there's something exceptional. Like I don't have to learn necessarily how to deal with serial killers because they're not a part of my regular daily living. I have to know they're there, and should I encounter one, I will refer it to a specialist who deals with it. But the bullshitters, well, first of all, there aren't really specialists who necessarily deal with them, and secondly, there are too many. So it's something that I have to personally deal with. I can't defer it to somebody else. So this is very important. Again, we come back to empowerment through understanding. That is how we are going to empower ourselves, through understanding. All right, so once we understand and are aware of bullshitter tricks, once we know their secrets, we disarm them of their power. Bullshit can't work on us once we're in the know, once we see the horseshit for what it is, deception, lies, and a hollow nothingness, all aimed at our manipulation. This empowerment leads to fantastic benefits for the individual. We come to see not only the bullshit in society, in other individuals, but those bits of it inside ourselves, which affect us more than we typically realize. Those frustrations, those unknown annoyances and irritations, those botherations which afflict us without any obvious cause. Those come from inner bullshit we're unaware of. And another nice quote here, everything is suspect, a useful perspective. Treating bullshit as truth gets us into trouble. Treating truth as bullshit is caution until we know better. So we are being careful here. We are believing without believing, and we are trusting without trusting, in other words. So we're going to just be suspect until we know for sure. So it's not like we want to go around being suspect of everything, but we're doing so to say, yes, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to accept it as a full truth, but I'm not going to accept it as bullshit either. I'm going to withhold my perceptions and determinations as to what's going on until I know more. So, very important. All right, Bina, so here we come to a section on more on the viruses.
Yes, I actually was reading that quote again and again.
Which one? This last one about the everything is suspect?
Yes.
Right.
Suspect.
So everything is suspect. We have to have this. As a warrior, just from a strategic point of view, as a spirit warrior, how can you go through life to not assume that everything might be suspect? That's just foolish, right? And especially when it comes to people. So, it just happens to be that the very last Ask Me Ella post that was posted was about narcissism. And it was a question that somebody asked, said, are narcissists predictable? And then, one of the readers in the Gateway Gazette, they responded to the post, where the column is published. So they responded and they said, they have somebody. I don't know if it's their father or a friend's father or anyway somebody. So it's in a divorce case, and there was a settlement and it is joint custody. But the father is in public, he's Mr. Nice Guy, and everybody thinks he's fantastic. But yet he's just manipulating the kids, and he's putting pressure on the mother. And even though it's supposed to be joint custody, he just ends up with the kids. So she asked what can be done about this. Now, this is a deep problem, and that is exactly why we need to be suspect. The point I'm making is about that appearance in public, that complete phoniness, and how well they can sell this. I'm Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm just fine, and all that. But it's just complete and utter bullshit. So this is why we need to be suspect, because if we're not, we can easily be taken in by the bullshitters and that facade that they can so successfully push. Now, yes, it is successful only up until a certain point. It does require a level of unawareness and complicity from us. We have to kind of buy into it, and we have to willfully ignore the red flags that pop up, which people do because they don't want to rock the boat. And we'll go into why bullshitters get away, how they co-opt us. We'll get into that a bit later. But this thing of everything is suspect, it's a useful perspective. Now, we have to understand too that we're going to do this with trusting without trusting, or believing without believing, accepting without accepting. Because we're going to say, yes, everything is suspect. That doesn't mean I'm suspicious necessarily of everything. I'm just making allowance for the possibility. So I'm not going around life saying, hey, everybody I meet, you're a bullshitter, you're a bullshitter. No, I'm saying that I don't know, so I'm going to treat you as if you might be, but also I'm going to treat you as if you might be a new noble and just be fantastic and have profound goodness and awesomeness and integrity. I'm going to do both. I'm not going to limit my assumptions of what you are to the positive only. I'm going to include the full range. So I'm going to assume that you are positive, that you are really fantastic, and that you might be a bullshit at the same time. So I'm going to include that just as a possibility. That's where people get stuck on this. They tend to only focus on one or the other, and they don't make allowance for, hey, I can be inclusive of having an assumption that you might be ridiculously positive and you might be a bullshitter. I've got both in there, and until I know more, I'm going to withhold that. Now, you might sometimes be a bit of both as well. That's also a possibility. It's not always either or, it's not always black and white, they're colors as well. So we have to have that openness, and that's what gives us our unrelenting positivity and able to be there. Because also, in having that allowance for everything, we are not being naive. We are not open to manipulation because we are seeing, hey, it's a possibility. So anybody who even wants to try that says, well, it's no point in trying it. Yeah, I'll just be nice, and that's it. I'll just be good. And so, if they're in that either or possibility of being both stage, then we also do that. Plus, sometimes people respond, we've talked about cueing a lot. They respond to how you perceive them and how they think you perceive them. So when we open and we're saying, hey, you can be anything with me, it's up to you, we also then make allowance and give possibility for people to be their best selves, right?
Okay. So it means that there must be some point where you can judge them. I don't know if it's a negative word to judge them, just to be aware of them and
Aware,
their
right.
yes,
Right.
and their BS, that okay, now it is confirmed that okay,
Yes.
they are more of it
Right.
than the positive side.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
exactly, it's awareness, discernment, and understanding. So we are going to be aware of the possibility, and because we're aware that there is a possibility, just that awareness alone opens us up to seeing what is, which leads to the next thing, which is discern. Right. Without the awareness of possibility, we are unable to discern. Right. So we are open to what could be, And we are not presuming it's one way or other. We open to any possibility. It's up to them. We don't have a predetermined, preconceived confirmation bias doesn't come into it and all of that, right? So we're not making a determination. We are simply open to possibility. That's awareness. That allows us to be discerning of what is, not what we think is, what we believe is, what we want to make happen. No, we are seeing things for what they actually are. That is the pureness of why we say everything is suspect, and we are treating this as a strategic matter, right? To treat bullshit as truth gets us into trouble, but treating truth as bullshit is caution until we know better, right? So something may be true, but we are going to say, well, it might be bullshit, and let me just make sure, right? So I'm just going to be thorough, and I'm being impeccable in testing and checking. So we're not limiting things. We are just staying open, and that discernment. Then we get to obviously the understanding. When we truly discern what's going on, we get to understand: is this person an actual deliberate bullshitter who's doing this with conscious awareness, or are they just inadvertently doing it because, well, it's sort of the thing you do, and they're not thinking twice about it, right? Because that happens sometimes too.
Okay.
See,
Yeah.
so very powerful, that awareness, discernment, and understanding. ADU, it adds to you, right?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant, 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 brilliant. Uh, so we're going to, Shisha says, yes, yes, I get the theory, but application loses me. Yes, yes, yes. And I like the coin flipping too. Um, yes, it's very important in the political climate. And Shisha, I wasn't sure if you were here yet when we said the focus of our book is specifically to deal with bullshit in our daily, day-to-day lives, to deal with people when they kind of in the starting stages of bullshit, where they haven't adopted this as a full way of being yet, and they haven't become empowered in their bullshit, and they think they can get away with it, and they just run away with themselves. We want to catch it in its starting points and deal with it in our day-to-day lives so that it doesn't get into a full-blown contagion that spreads everywhere the way we see it in politics now. And I'm purposely not mentioning a specific name because I don't want to make it political. We need to deal with bullshit in our day-to-day lives. That's our responsibility as individuals. People always ask, but what can I do? What you can do is to learn to be aware of what exactly is involved with bullshit. Then you are able to discern it and understand it, which means you actually nullify it simply through awareness. That aware, exactly, dangerous to take bullshit as truth. So that the application, Shisha, lies in awareness and understanding of how it works and what it does. Just that fact alone is something that mitigates and actually stops bullshit. Now you think of it, right? You know somebody who's kind of got their shit together, and they're aware, and somebody that bullshitters can't bullshit. If you're at a party, say, and there's a bullshitter, and they spreading their bullshit around, and they going all off, and just like, they're holding full court, right? Because there's nobody there that basically can see it. Then that person comes in who's got themselves together, right? And who's aware of bullshit. The moment they come into that environment, let's say into the party there, right? That bullshitter can't bullshit anymore because they know that that person sees their bullshit, is aware of their bullshit, and it's reflected in their awareness. They don't even have to say anything. Just that awareness alone is usually enough to, well, now everybody can see, oh, they see the other person, the non-bullshitter, and they see them, the way they're responding, and then they click, and then it falls into place. Awareness is contagious also. So we can actually put an end to bullshit simply through being aware. Bullshitters can't bullshit when there is somebody who's essentially calling them on it, whether they actually say, hey, you're bullshitting or not. You don't have to. You can just have that awareness. It's enough. As we know that bullshitters, when a person like that comes in, they can't bullshit anymore. They can't do it. They can't do it to those people. It's quite powerful. So that's the application to a large part. Yes, there are some more specific things we can do, but as we come through, we're going to see, Shisha, the more we understand how exactly bullshit works, that's what's going to empower us in terms of application. Because yes, when it comes to what we do, you and I, application is absolutely everything. Without application, it's all meaningless. So yeah, application is very important. Now, bullshit is one of the more tricky things to deal with because the application is an application of awareness for the most part. So very powerful. All right. So let's read on a little bit here. And please, Shisha, if you want to join in the chat, you're more than welcome, to talk, get onto Zoom, and instead of typing questions, which are a little bit behind, there's a lag on the Facebook Live. In Zoom, it's in real time. Like Bina, she's responding in real time. So you're more than welcome to join. That goes for anybody. Anybody can join the Zoom discussion. All right, so I'm going to read on a little bit. Did you have something, Bina?
Oh, yes. Waiting for you to continue.
Right. All right. Much like computer viruses, which operate unseen and make our computers perform poorly, so bullshit is a mental and emotional virus, affecting us in ways we don't always realize. This book is an anti-bullshit virus program. Being aware of crapola leads to a clarity of being, to an exit from the fog of bullshit, a phenomenal difference of living and being. Empowerment via seeing through disguised deception is a powerful enhancement of our lives, an enhancement we wish to accomplish through enabling the individual to see and know bullshit, which so sneakily affects us if we're unaware. Developing the tools of awareness, discernment, and understanding has a profound effect in all areas of our lives. Recognizing and dealing with fuzzy crap, both external and inner, is but one major benefit. Understanding is the start. Without the ability to recognize bullshit, we're held back and restricted in our personal development and self-improvement. We can't deal with what we don't see. We dearly wish to see individuals empowered to deal with bullshit, particularly in their immediate lives. Many suffer tremendously from devious deception and don't have the tools for rectifying their situations. We're earnestly intent on empowering such individuals and society in general. And most of us can change, learn, and grow in ways which allow us to recognize bullshit and know awareness is a light which banishes the shadows bullshit needs to survive. We can make a difference. Bringing awareness, discernment, and understanding of bullshit into general consciousness will transform us as a society. If we look around at what's wrong, it's almost always indirect lying, the problem of untruth. This deception exists because as a society, as individuals, we're not always able to see nor recognize it fully. We know it's there, but don't know how exactly. We aim to change this lack of recognition, this lack of power. It's time to reclaim the sensibility which is our due as aware, discerning, understanding, and empowered individuals. All right. I love that. It's really important that, hey, just by dealing with this understanding and discernment and being aware of what it is that's involved, we empower ourselves and we can transform society as well, right? So the quote here, we can compromise on optional matters like style, but how do we compromise on matters of ethics? We cannot. So there is compromise we can do and compromise we can't. Seeing things for what they truly are, not for what we would like them to be, takes courage.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. It takes a whole lot of courage.
And that makes me pause there somewhat. Because yes, that's the way we've written the book. We've got the content, that the spelled out, the detailed content, and then we have the quotes, which the quotes are more overview perspective. They're more abstract. They're looking at bigger picture, right? And they kind of extend us a little bit sideways sometimes. Like in this case, to say, hey, you know what? Why is it that we are so afflicted by bullshit? Because we don't take that bit of courage to actually stand up and step up to it, right? So we'll get into that. It's a little bit of a prelude into where we're going. All right. So we get into chapter 1. Why bullshit is a big deal. And we have another cartoon.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go. Naturally made flora and vegetation growth and size enhancer. One of a kind, limited supply, fresh today. Get it while it's hot. Once in a lifetime deal. Though only price to sell. 99. A handful. Never mind the spade for a handful. But you know, there's actually a deeper layeredness to this. Yes, it's that's the way bullshit is. They'll sell you crap and make it sound fantastic and charge you a fortune for it as well. But there's actually more to this as well from a more sober point of view. In this, that we have to understand that bullshit is actually manure also, right? And the crap in the world, if we take it as crap, yes, it's smelly and it's awful and it's unpleasant. If we transform it into manure, it becomes something profoundly valuable. And that's the point of the book also. So this is a bit of a layered cartoon here, that if we have the appropriate mindset and attitude, and we come at things from with awareness and discernment and understanding, we can transform that bullshit into manure, and we can actually use it. Now, we're not going to pay 99.9 a handful because it's plentiful and we can get it for free. Nonetheless, we have to understand that we can do this. We can transform the negative into the positive. That requires simple awareness, discernment, and understanding, of course, that magic of perspective shifting that we love so much. So part of the book is also to shift our perspective, to be able to transform shit into manure, right?
Okay.
Very powerful, very, very powerful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Only the awareness. This part is really empowering.
Yes,
That okay, you don't need to do anything, but
correct.
just be aware in yourself
Yes,
is really important to me, and it
yes,
is kind of really liberating, because I feel, if I understand that being aware is empowering, is in itself a tool. It is itself
yes,
is a mechanism I'm just dealing with. So I
yes,
feel no regrets. I feel no like
right.
I don't know what to, the guilt part. Yes,
Yes, yes.
that eliminating the guilt part is a huge deal for me.
Right. All right. So we have to understand something, and we're going to get into it a little bit, but I'm connected to Shisha, connected to your comment. I get the theory, but application loses me. Yes, the application of awareness, that is powerful. However, there's a little bit more to that. Why is it that that awareness isn't enough in most cases? Because that awareness of bullshit, and when you're in the company of a bullshitter and you apply that awareness directly to them, what is required in addition to awareness? It requires some courage. Why? Because when we apply that awareness of saying, hey, I see your bullshit, I'm fully aware of your bullshit, it takes a bit of courage because we are saying directly to somebody, we're calling them out. And that we are conditioned and we are trained to not make a fuss, to not make things unpleasant, to not cause trouble, to not make a scene, right? So we are going against our innate conditioned and personal beliefs of wanting to be nice and wanting to be good and not wanting to cause trouble. So that's why that is an inhibition, and why application is difficult of awareness, because we have to go against our niceness, and we have to kind of say, hey, we're not being nasty or negative, but at the same token we are willing to make a stand, and that takes courage, right? Because when I say, hey, I'm sharing my awareness that there's bullshit, I'm sort of laying it out there. It's almost like I'm calling somebody out, which can lead to potential stress and confrontation. Now, bullshitters typically don't, because they know they can't really get into a detailed discussion. They're going to every time, because they know what they're saying is bullshit. It's not going to work for them. However, if you don't have that togetherness of self, they can call you on calling their bullshit and say, oh, you think I'm bullshitting? And then they can bully people sometimes simply through even more bullshit, and kind of bully them into, oh, no, sorry, I was mistaken and all of this, right? But they're just putting bullshit on top of bullshit. So that is the courage comes into it, right? So yeah,
Yes.
bullshitters exploit nice. Absolutely, Bina, Shisha. And this is something that we get into later in the book, precisely how they do that. And what's even worse, they exploit your niceness and they make you complicit in their bullshit. And that is something that when we are aware of that, now we can't ethically no longer do this. Because, okay, it's one thing if you bullshit on your own, but don't make me complicit in it. Don't rope me in and make me part of your nefarious nonsense, right? So we're going to get into that in detail. Right, yes, you're ahead of the curve, Shisha, you're ahead of the curve. So just stick with us. I know we're laying the groundwork here, and it's important because, yes, you know, you have, it seems to me that you have a detailed understanding of what bullshit is and how it works. But I'm also making the reading for those who might not be so intimately acquainted with the fine points of bullshit. So I'm explaining the obvious, in other words, right? Now, in the same way as bullshit is a virus, it's also a cancer. And this quote is very powerful. All right, I'll continue. I can come back to it when Bina comes back. But let me digress before I get to this quote, because Bina dropped off. And the point about bullshit being a mind virus was very powerful for Bina. And this part of it being cancer, it's also powerful. So I want to share that with Bina as well. She doesn't drop off very long. It's just her connection where she's at is not the greatest. So, but her patience is always good, right? We can never get enough opportunity to practice and apply our patience. It's always good. And I get very intense with this, so it gives me a little bit of a. There we go. There's Bina again. Brilliant, brilliant. All right, Bina. So I waited till you came back. You can hear?
Yes,
Bina?
I can.
Brilliant. All right. So this next quote, you know, yes, bullshit is a mind virus, but it's also a cancer. So bullshit is a cancer. At first, that little bit of cancer makes no difference. We don't even notice until later. I don't. For me, this is a huge quote because bullshit is a cancer. It really is. It will consume you. It will wipe you out. It will kill you. It will do all sorts of horrible, nasty stuff to you. But like cancer, we don't always notice it in the beginning. When it starts, you don't notice it. It doesn't make any difference. We don't even notice until later. So we have to understand this about bullshit. Actually, you know, it's interesting just to digress here for a little moment, just a little background that we almost called the book "Bullshit is a Cancer," or the cancer of bullshit. That was the original title of the book, and we didn't do that because, you know, sometimes cancer, it's a sensitive issue for a lot. And you know, somebody may say, well, you know, you can't equate bullshit and cancer. It's not the same. You know, cancer is very serious. And we didn't want to step on the seriousness of cancer. But at the same token, we also want to make a point that the bullshit is serious also. It is very, very serious. If we look at everything in the world, we see at its root pretty much everything negative, I should say, we see bullshit in there somewhere. So it is very serious. All right. So that just, you know, this point of bullshit not just being a virus, but a cancer. It's a serious virus, in other words. Bullshit has become a determining factor in the social media age, a defining issue of our time. Its influence is seen on the global stage, but bullshit is also local, where it presses us directly, where it's we ourselves have to deal with this growing problem. Not only is bullshit personal propaganda, under the surface it's deception, manipulation, dominance, and gross negativity. It's no good to recognize this epidemic without being able to fully identify and understand all its nuance and subtlety, especially with the bullshit we find in our day-to-day lives, as the manipulations and deceptions aren't readily obvious. Which really means we're being bullied by bullshit. Even worse, we allow this plague to flourish and grow because we don't adequately see all of what's going on. We get taken in and all too often simply taken. However, if we can recognize what the bullshitters are up to, understand all their tricks, and know their secrets, we can avoid their bad intentions. For they do have bad intentions. These aren't always easy to see another reason why bullshit is a serious issue, as it is nefarious. Perhaps we've become lulled by the Hollywood implied notion it's basically harmless, but it's not, not even close. We might think we are simply dealing with exaggeration or embellishment, thus no big deal. But this is a convenient avoidance of an unpleasant reality, allowing those perpetrating this blight on us to get away with their crap and to feel emboldened. No longer can we tolerate this nonsense. We but need to look around to see the severe consequences of bullshit which haven't been checked. Politics, sexual harassment, fake news, trolls, advertising, bots, propaganda, social media, bullying, narcissism, opinion personalities, etc., etc. All bullshit. The list is long, and why bullshit is a big deal. So this is a real point we want to make here. We tend to have this perception, or society, it's just bullshit, and it's no big deal. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! It is a huge bullshit. Look at that list, right? Politics. What's at root? Bullshit. Sexual harassment. What's at root of that? Bullshit. Fake news. Bullshit. Trolls. Bullshit. Advertising. I don't mean to rag on advertising as being a negative, but advertising employs bullshit, and advertising is part of the problem because, of course, they use bullshit, and we know it's bullshit, but they ameliorate and they say, well, it's just advertising. So we get accustomed and acclimatized to bullshit not being something that's a direct negative, right? But what is advertising but manipulation, right? And same with bullshit. Bullshit is at root manipulation. Same thing with all the rest there, right? And narcissism, of course, is absolutely entrenched and founded on bullshit. That is what narcissism is. It is inherently bullshit. And we're starting to see the profound, severe, major detrimental consequences of narcissism, right? And of manipulation in general. So we have another quote here. Be civilized. Civilization is more than law. Civilization is standards, values, personal boundaries, respect, trust, and more. We need to be extra vigilant of the very beginnings of transgressions in our homes, families, communities, societies, in the world at large. If we're not vigilant about the beginnings of transgressions, that's when they become problems, right? So what we are saying here in that quote, really, it's, hey, don't wait until the thing is a problem. It's too late to deal with it then, as we see in politics, right, Shisha? It's already there. It should have been dealt with long ago, right, at its inception, when it was in the beginning of the transgression, in the home, in our families, in our communities. That's where we need to start to deal with it. Because once it's a problem, then it's a big deal to deal with, right? Close to
Okay.
home.
Yes, sir. Before going further, I want to share something which is really relevant to this. Like,
Yes, no, please do. That's why you're here, Bina. That's why I'm hoping others will join too. This is an
okay,
interactive reading. It's not just me reading through it. It's the discussion that's the issue. So
okay,
we don't have to read anymore. We can continue to discuss and only discuss. Absolutely. The discussion that we are for. It's an interactive
I
reading.
was,
Go ahead.
I was a bit confused that okay, we in the book you didn't explain it really well that what is actually BS we are talking about, and now we came to this. Okay, all these things are BS in that umbrella. It's umbrella term for all these things.
Correct. Correct.
What I and what my other friends or people are facing. Uh,
One second, Bina. 1 second. We have magical visitors coming through here. So,
oh yeah.
just the house continues without us. Whatever we do in the house has its own life, right? So yes, Bina, you were saying that to understand what bullshit is, and we're going to get into that in detail a little bit more. Yes, it's not necessarily obvious. We're going to get there. So yeah. So,
No, but now I understand that it's an umbrella term you
right.
use, and all the illogical nonsense things can be in that term. Okay,
Yes, correct.
but I want to share. that if I guess that I assume that everybody here know about how the political situation in the Asian countries, especially in Pakistan.
Right.
And
Oh, no, I don't assume that they know because
okay, yeah.
it's not necessarily obvious.
If one can just look, you can see and you can understand that how things are happening here. But current government, when they were fighting for these elections, they were just participating in the elections. They promised a lot of, they made a huge promises, and even that time, I was saying that they are unrealistic, illogical kind of promises they are making. But they charm the people, and the whole country gave them the votes in majority, and they won.
Yes.
After they came in power, and people start waiting for that, okay, they will do these things and they what they promised before, and the time passes on, and then actually people start protesting and asking questions. And when things just grow up, like, okay, coming on media and people were asking questions in the newspaper and everywhere, what the prime minister said, that those were all political promises, and they have nothing to do with now. And people were like stunned. Why this happened? Because this is what you are saying, that we need to deal this immediately in our immediate circle, in
Yeah.
our personal lives.
Yes.
Because this is how it grows. The prime minister is saying that, oh, I just made some political promises,
Right.
nothing real.
Right.
It was a huge thing. It was really huge. And now actually all the people are just stunned. They are in shock. They are in
Right.
shock.
And part of that is because they've become accustomed to accepting bullshit. If they tolerate bullshit in their daily lives from their friends and their acquaintances and their family, they would never have tolerated that bullshit in the first place, because they not only would have, but the problem is they had to be aware. They became aware later. They weren't aware in the beginning. Now, I'll bet you anything, if you really go into detail about people's perceptions at the time, they kind of did know it was bullshit, but they sort of trusted that it would be okay, and they
Yes,
the benefit of the doubt and all of that, right? So they allowed themselves to be bullshit. That's the point that we're making. We are complicit in bullshit without always realizing it, because
and
we.
now they feel power. Now people are feeling powerless because now the government is in power, and they're saying that, and they think, okay, now we can't do anything other
Exactly.
than just accept that,
Exactly. All right.
and
So
it's a thing.
now it's huge. Bina, let me ask you something. Very powerful point here, right?
Yes,
Those people
yes,
who are complaining now, that are complaining about the bullshit, and that they feel they've been done in and they've been lied to and all of that, right? How much
yes.
did they give away their power? Oh, that doesn't help. I was trying to make it better, but it may do it. So they were complicit. They gave away their power, right?
Exactly. And what I experienced, like when I was doing some shopping on the street, the shopkeepers, the vendors were saying to the customers and the clients, they saying, "Oh, you are talking about recession? Ask your prime minister. He made some. You elected him. You elected. People are blaming each other and
Right.
just reminding each other that, okay, we elected him. That's why we."
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
You complicit. You gave
yes,
that bullshit to the power. You have to
yes,
take responsibility. But that is the problem. Why we come back to awareness, discernment, and understanding. There's not
yes,
always the awareness in the moment and awareness ahead of time. It comes afterwards. If we can develop the skills for understanding and seeing and perceiving the details of bullshit, then we can see it coming before it even sees us. And that's where we want to get out, right? We
yes.
want to have, that's the application to a large extent, Shisha, is that recognition before it really becomes a problem. That there's not even space for that bullshit to come and fly their bullshit, because you're already in a no bullshit environment. It's like if you have a business meeting and you've got a bunch of people in that meeting who are no bullshit people, or genuine and ethical and honest and aware and have discernment. That's important. You can get honest people and genuine good people who don't have that awareness and discernment of bullshit, so they can get taken in a little bit by bullshit, right? But if you have people that are aware of everything, a bullshitter can't come into that meeting and suddenly come apply all their bullshit. It just, they won't even try it because they know it's a complete and utter waste of time. And bullshitters, especially the BMNs, they're very concerned with their image and how things look, and they don't want to make a fool of themselves. And they know that if people are aware and in the know, if they're not fools, in other words, or ignorant or naive, they can't apply their bullshit, so they don't even try. And that is how we stamp out this rubbish, through that awareness and discernment and understanding. That's how we empower ourselves. That's the application. It's somewhat of an indirect way, Shisha. You know what I mean? It's not a direct something that's specifically like a physical thing you can do, but it is incredibly powerful. And we'll come to it more as we get in. We're just laying the groundwork, Bina. So Bina, Shisha. So stick with us. Stick with us. I hope you're still with us. Oh, I think you are. Brilliant. All right, so let's read a bit more. Close to home, decent, good people are taken in by apparently friendly deception, mainly because the idea someone could be so preposterous is simply not something they can readily believe. But bullshit is preposterous. Bullshitters are very, very, very preposterous. A key understanding vital for coming to terms with this particular form of distortion and lying. As we shall show, there's a whole lot more to this falseness than we first realize. Bullshit is most intimately connected to manipulation, to ego, and its extreme version, narcissism. We will extend our focus to the Bullshit-Manipulator-Narcissist, the BMN, who are exaggerated versions of bullshitters, of regular bullshitters. These individuals do much harm in ways not always recognized. We aim to provide the tools for that recognition, and thus also the means for dealing with problematic abuse. If we don't step up our game, we become part of the problem, allowing the infection to fester and spread. All right, so our quote: bullshitters are a mucking fuddle, full of contradictions and square circle logics, perpetually in a no-win game with themselves. Oh, that's a powerful quote. Bullshitters are a mucking puddle, right? But they're also full of contradictions and square circle logics. They're perpetually in a no-win game with themselves. And this is important to understand with bullshitters. You know, earnest, good people like yourself, Mina, like Donna, like Shisha, all of you, you guys have sensibility, you have sobriety, you have goodness, you have rationality and logic. Yes, okay, you might not always feel that you have it so much. Sometimes we might get away from us a little bit, but nonetheless, it's there in you. You basically are making an effort in your life to be sensible, right? Sensibility is something that you take for granted as a good, as something that we are trying to do. However, when it comes to bullshitters, they are not sensible. They've chosen something which isn't sensible. They're a mucking follower. They're full of contradictions, square circle logics, and they're in this no-win game with themselves. They do not make sense, in other words. Earnest, good people, they make sense to themselves. Yes, they know they're not perfect, and they understand others aren't perfect, but it still makes sense to them. We learn and we grow. There's still things make sense. But bullshitters, they do not make sense. But we try to assume that everybody in some way makes sense, and that gets us into trouble. When we realize bullshitters are a mucking fuddle, full of contradictions and square circle logics, perpetually in a no-win game with themselves, that's when we truly come to understand them. We understand that they do not make sense. They are inherently insensible. That's their deal. And that is something that's somewhat difficult sometimes for earnest, good people to wrap their brains around. But how can you be like that? It just makes no sense to them. And they struggle with that. And we have to realize there are some things in the world that do not make sense, but do exist. Right? Things like people especially, they can exist and completely not make sense and completely be this mucking fuddle, this complete contradiction, this square circle logic. That's connected with you in some way, Bina. Let's hear. Let's hear.
Yes, they exist. Yes,
It's incredible, isn't it? It's
yes.
really incredible. It's really incredible.
Well, his acceptance is really amazing. That it's an amazing part. That okay, yes, I accept that these people exist. They make no sense. They make no logic, but they exist.
That's a huge step. That is a huge, huge, huge step right there. I see honest, good people get done in by bullshit so often simply because their goodness doesn't make allowance for such incredible ridiculousness. It's just not, their brains just can't compute it. And I feel for them. I mean, it really touches my heart. But I'm saying, beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous, fantastic, delightful, good person, please. I'm sorry, but you have to expand your perception and make allowance for this crap in the world. Yes, it's unpleasant, but you have to understand that such irrationality, such illogic, it can and does exist. So we have to expand ourselves a little bit. And it's sad to see that because really, it's a loss of naivety to a certain extent. But just because we lose our naivety doesn't mean we have to lose our innocence. We can be both innocent and sophisticated both at the same time. Bina, you're a fantastic example of that. Donna, you're a fantastic example of that. Shisha, you are also a fantastic example of that. None of you have lost your innocence, and you're all three very sophisticated. Bina's dropped off, but yeah, it's a powerful point. It's a powerful point. It's really powerful that we can maintain our innocence and our sophistication both at the same time. Just because we lose our naivety doesn't mean we have to lose our innocence. We can deliberately maintain that innocence and be aware and be discerning and be understanding and be sophisticated in others. It is possible. It is possible. Right, let me refresh Facebook. Are you still with us, Shisha? I hope so, and Donna also. Because all the comments say 1 minute, but I know it hasn't been 1 minute, so brilliant, brilliant. All right. Sometimes when it comes to the lives, there's a different place the questions are, and it's not, the comments, they're not in the Facebook comments itself. So I'm not always sure. So I think that yes means you're still there, Donna. All right. So I don't know, Facebook Live, when you're doing it from your own point, it's a little bit peculiar sometimes to see that. So, all right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Let's continue. Let's read some more. We have fantastic exemplifications of the bullshit manipulator narcissist constantly in the news. But these specific individuals aren't our focus. They serve as phenomenal examples, highlighting all we bring to light in this book. The danger lies mainly close to home. It's here we need to look in detail, as this corruption isn't as easy to spot when we're not under the magnifying glass of constant media attention. The damage and harm is no less great, actually greater, as it's closer, more personal and pervasive. We wish to turn that illuminating lens on the beginnings of these monstrous personalities, allowing us to cut out this cancer on the world, right at the root. The purpose of our book is to enable ordinary people like you and me to deal with the effects and consequences of bullshit and the bullshit manipulator narcissist in our everyday life. We wish to enable recognition of deception with the people we know, with the people we have to interact and deal with. We aim to prevent the very real harm which interacting with phonies and BMNs can cause through being in the know, through personal empowerment. Let me just, 1 second before we go on to the quote. Can you hear the background noise? It's very loud and noisy over here by me, but I'm not sure if you can hear it.
Yes.
So you do hear it? All right, so please, Elevia, and just a little bit, yeah. And the same with the feeds and stuff like that. It actually comes through. So come join us, please. That'd be great. All right, so once we know, we're empowered. It's as simple as that. And that's all it is. Once we know, we're empowered. Right? You wanted to say something, Bina?
Yeah, actually, I'm just reading it. This. I'm just reading this.
Oh, sorry, I scrolled too much. Once we know, we're empowered. I'll leave it up there.
Okay.
It's simple like that. And, you know, and it's not just once we know we're empowered. It's not just when it comes to bullshit. It's about everything, of course, right? So, yes, we are using bullshit as the tool. But what we are really learning is discernment, is awareness, is understanding, right? That's what we are really all about. And that empowers us, right? Okay, brilliant, Shisha. I just, you know, I always enjoy interactivity. So I love sharing and hearing back. So that's why I made the Zoom for everybody to join so that you guys could share and participate the same way as Bina is to hear, and also to hear personal stories of how, like, you know, like interactivity with BMNs and with bullshitters as we get into it. That's very powerful, you know, and how they were and what they did. For instance, the one thing that always comes through, like that story I was saying with the person who responded to the Ask Biella column, that they were making this point about this discrepancy between the private horror and negative and nastiness of bullshitters, or BMNs in particular, and how they are so nice in public and how people don't see it. That's a very powerful problem. And the more people share that particularness to say, yes, I had exactly the same thing. They were all sweetness and light to everybody else, but at home and to me, they were just this monster. That's something that we need to share more and more, because it's very hard to believe when we see that facade and say, oh, well, I would never have guessed that. But then when we really hear the inside stories, it's like, oh, wow. So we get to be aware that, hey, what we see is not always what it is. Very
So,
powerful.
and this is why it is necessary to work at grassroots level.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. That is precisely why. Because yes, that bullshitter that we have in politics that's, you know, causing, yes, they cause lots of trouble on a grand scale, but the day-to-day pain and suffering, it's in our homes. It's from the people we know intimately. That's where the bullshit causes the problem, right? So that's why it's so important to deal with it close to home. And if those bullshitters had been dealt with close to home, they would never become public bullshitters, because they would have no place to be,
And
right?
sometimes the family members or the close ones are the only one who actually know that BS.
Exactly, exactly. So that's the point of the book. It's to empower us to deal with bullshit in our everyday lives close to home. That's the point. That's the whole deal here. It's dealing with it close to home. All right, so let's look at a bit more specific of how bullshit gets to be negative and how it applies. Where we don't, we're getting a little bit away from this idea of bullshit, of somebody just embellishing or making up stories or nonsense like that, right? We're looking at the actual consequences of it. So dominance via bullshit. Bullshit manipulator narcissists are focused on dominance, wanting to cheat and lie their way to superiority. They can only try to achieve their sad aim by attempting to pull others down below them. And this they do, causing significant harm. We're hugely thankful if this isn't something you've directly experienced. Sadly, we've seen it way too much, often manifesting as the bullshit manipulator narcissist, obliterating another's self-worth with constant condescension, with persistent demeaning and derogatory denigrating behavior, resulting in real harm and hurt. Horribly, this happens also with parents and their children, or with the elderly by their children in turn. Of course, manipulation and abuse is all too prevalent in the workforce, or any place power can be misused, happening in any interaction or relationship, especially when there's some kind of dominance of one over the other. This behavior is egregious, reprehensible, and unforgivable. Generally, we're aware of typical bullying. Bullshit is also bullying, a subtle bullying, not so readily apparent, but no less harmful and no less of a big deal. Our book aims to raise awareness about the very real negativity of bullshit, enabling us all to recognize what's happening, allowing us to deal with previously unseen effects and consequences, thereby changing how we deal with bullshit, how we deal with bullshitters, especially the bullshit manipulator narcissist. All right, so this is a very powerful quote from, actually, this is from, most of these quotes are from Elevia and I, but this one she posted on Facebook. I shudder to think of the men, women, children, the elderly, who might not have the fortitude and self-assurance to deal with the kind of unrelenting negativity and bonds of suffering these bullshit manipulator narcissists perpetrate with their nice and friendly bullying bullshit. They are the folks who would benefit from understanding exactly what's being perpetrated, and this awareness of the motivations behind the hierarchical mindset of the BMN will empower them. An awareness which can set them free. Oh, what was that? All right, so it's an awareness that sets us free when we really see that, hey, at root, the underlying intent and motivation behind the bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissists especially is hierarchy, superiority, dominance, and all such kinds of nonsense. Right? You still there, Bina?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. I just heard some sounds. So I thought maybe you heard something had happened.
No,
All right. It's all good. Hey, this is real world. This is real world Facebook Live, right? With all sorts of
yes.
stuff going on, which I love. I love it. I love
I'm just here and I'm just reading this and I'm listening.
it.
Because
Okay.
you said that BS versus dominance. And
Yes. Yes. That's the little subheading there. It's
yes,
it's dominance via bullshit, right?
okay.
So
Dominance.
they are using bullshit for the aim to accomplish dominance, right? That's the root of why they are bullshitting. So and when we say dominance here, we're also talking about superiority, status, ego, all of that. It's all inherent underneath. It's dominance. That's the point of it, right? So when we understand, yes, some people do status and they aren't trying to necessarily specifically be dominant because their status is just something that they do because they think they should, and it's all good and that. But when it comes to bullshitters, status is for the purpose of dominance. They have a nefarious underlying agenda, and we have to be aware of that. They want dominance specifically or superiority. But superiority, not just that I'm better and that's it, just like, pure, unadulterated ego could say. No, there's a nefariousness to it. They want dominance. And it's a whole different deal. Dominance is where you're actually manipulating somebody, where you're bullying them, where you're actually doing things to them for your benefit at their expense. That's dominance, right? So there's a very real negative consequence and an agenda behind the bullshit. It's not just innocent. They're not just doing it to, oh, well, they're telling fancy stories or crap like that. No, there's a reason behind it.
And this dominance is I observe now I can say that I observe because now it is coming to my awareness.
Yes.
Before I was just saying, okay, yes, it is the way, this is the way people just behave. Some kind of people just behave like that. But what I observed that in my country, they call, mostly people use the term feudal or uh, term for them, that they have a feudal mentality. And this dominance is really a huge and really a sophisticated tool they have.
Yes.
Because, yeah, because I saw people who are just being really dominated by those people by their will. It looks like that they feel that they are obliged to be dominated by others who are actually just BSMN.
Exactly. 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 So there's a
And
complicity involved. Right.
yes, exactly. Because it tunes their mind to,
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Shisha makes a very powerful point there, and we're going to get to that later. Shisha, again, you're ahead of the curve. That's fantastic. I love it. That she says grossly insecure. That is exactly it. They are grossly insecure, which is why they want dominance, right? To make up for that grossness. It's an avoidance of the awful truth. But we're going to get to that later on. We're still laying the groundwork here. We're still only on chapter 1. So I love it. I love it that the connectivity is starting to fit into place. I love that connectivity.
but still, though they are grossly insecure, but this is how they bully people and collect their power.
Yes,
Their
exactly,
power, the control. They get it from these
exactly.
things.
Did I go out of screen share somehow? Yeah, it seems like it.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. We're back. Yeah, so that's huge. Exactly like you said. That's insecurity and dominance. When we understand that this is the agenda, it changes everything. All right, so let's read a bit more. We're still laying some groundwork. Bullshit is lies. Very important to understand. Our book has a serious tone because it's a serious matter. There's something very wrong with society's perception of bullshit and it needs to change. For instance, we looked up bullshit and lie at thesaurus.com. Bullshit has one section only. Most unusual in how little there is. It's all its synonyms are benign and no big deal. Under lie, there are 9 pages of sections, as you'd expect, listing all the huge variety related to lying. But not once is bullshit listed as a synonym for lie. Not once. Why is that? This discrepancy is the serious deficiency in societal consciousness the book addresses. Most people don't make the connection that bullshit is lying, but it is deception. It is dishonesty, plain and simple. This distorted perception of lying enables bullshitters to get away with bullshit. They trade on this acceptance and excusing or softening of the corruption and seriousness of bullshit. We know how much it matters, but typically it's not seen as an actionable issue in society, despite it screwing everything up. We tend not to think of bullshit as lies exactly, but it is. The difference is merely because lies are typically somewhat easy to prove or disprove. With bullshit, it's difficult to say definitively, which is the appeal for the bullshitter. They can easily get away with what are really lies, many lies, complex lies, disguised and concealed lies, implied lies, suggested lies, hinted lies, lies of impression and innuendo, lies of tone, mood, vibe, and all mother of other subtle lies. All lies nonetheless. No matter how much they might be dressed up and hidden, still lies. The intent and agenda behind those lies remain. And it's all to present an untruth, to conceal truth, to cover truth, to hide truth. The aim is to project and sell untruths as truths. That's lying. Just because it isn't clear, obvious, and overt doesn't make it any less of a lie. In fact, there's the lie that it's not a lie, compounding the lie. Right? And then the quote here is, the more they deny, the more they lie. Shisha. I'm combining you two, Bina and Shisha. Bisha. Sorry. Shisha, I'm sure you recognize that the more they deny, the more they lie. And also, Bina, in your local politics there, you see the validity of that. The more they deny, the more they lie. It's just amazing. But this point that we tend to not think of as a society, of bullshit as lying, it's just quite amazing. When I looked that up on thesaurus.com, I was flabbergasted. I was just completely thrown out that there were so few entries for bullshit. I mean, very few, like one little section. Whereas for lie, there were 9 pages of sections, section after section. So I don't know, 9 pages. I don't know. There's probably, so that's like 90 sections or something. You know, I don't know, like maybe 10 sections to a page. So that's a lot of stuff. But on bullshit, nothing. And it wasn't even listed as a synonym for lie. How is bullshit not lying? Right? All right, so there's the last little bit here, just before we get to the next section. Bullshitters like the vagueness and undefined nature of bullshit because then they can't be easily pinned down. Their personal propaganda and they themselves are thus a moving target, able to adapt and refine subsequent behavior to deal with any attacks on credibility. All manner of tricks are used to evade being caught out. Bullshit is used to defend, excuse, justify, rationalize, and otherwise prevent any attempts at exposure. And that's, again, that insecurity that comes through. They use bullshit because they fear exposure. That's their big fear. So the bullshit gives them this nebulousness, this vagueness, this undefinedness, this inexactness that they can get away with stuff. And because it's not a directly provable thing like a lie typically is, they don't run that risk because it's vague, it's nebulous, right? That's the power of bullshit. But the intent, if we look at the intent behind what they are doing, the intent is to deceive, making it a lie, right? Pina?
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
right. I'm saying when we look at the intent and we see the intent is to deceive, it's a lie. Doesn't matter
Okay.
that's a directly provable lie. If you are making an effort to deceive me, you're lying to me. End of story.
Still,
Yeah.
till now, I was just trying to look in outer world, like in others, okay, where they are just doing BS.
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah.
now I said, okay, now let's come to Bina, where she is doing this.
That's what I've been. That's always your magic, you know. And Donna, you also, and Shisha, you guys are so inherently honest. It is just, oh man, it touches my heart very deeply. That power of your honesty, it is. Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. It is really interesting that this lying intent behind this BS. We even lie with ourselves.
Yes,
We
yes,
actually don't deny that, because deny it is a different thing. We deny
correct,
we deny
correct.
when we say the truth. No, we actually lie to ourselves. No, I am doing this with real honesty, with real integrity, and I am the good one. But yes, it happens that
Yes, yes,
we
yes.
lie to ourselves.
I love what you're saying, and I love that you are saying it with amusement. Because yes, we have to learn to laugh at our own nincompooplery. We all can be ridiculously idiotic in being nincompoops. It's just like crazy. But yes, when we learn to recognize it and laugh at it, that's when we learn to grow. That to understand that yes, we are not being deliberately this way, but when we
Yeah,
become aware of it, we can learn to laugh at our foolishness. And that makes us able to deal with it and not stress about it, because otherwise we can get consumed in self-criticism and self-denigration and doing all the pulling ourselves down and all that. No, we have to understand that hey, this is part of society, that we've assimilated, we did it without awareness, and in our foolishness, in our nincompoopery, however, we can now laugh at it and move on. But
yeah,
in the same way, we can also learn to laugh at other bullshitters. If there's one thing a bullshitter cannot absolutely deal with, it's actually being laughed at. Now, we don't have to be laughing in a negative, demeaning, derogatory, denigrating way or mock them. We can just laugh at the sheer absolute ridiculousness of it. I have a suspicion Shisha might know what I'm talking about. There's a viral video and it's called Green Shirt Man. I think it's called Green Shirt Man or Man in the Green Shirt. And this is a guy who was just at, I think it was like a local city council meeting or town hall meeting or a political meeting. And there were these people that came with this poster and they were just had this ridiculous, absolute preposterous bullshit on this poster that they'd made and whatever they were talking about. And he just started laughing, and he wasn't being negative or meaning. Did you see Green Shirt video, the viral video? No, Green Shirt Man. All right, never mind. All right, see you later. Okay. All right, bye bye. Bye bye. See you later. So anyway, so he just started laughing at the preposterousness, and he wasn't being mocking or denigrating. It was just too absurd, and he couldn't help himself, and he just started laughing, and it was just in himself. He wasn't kind of laughing at them. He was just laughing at the ridiculousness, right? So it was a very beautiful laughter, and it's well worth watching that. So to see that how we can laugh at bullshit and how it absolutely just nullifies it and it throws it out. If we could learn to laugh at our politicians in that way, in that pure laughter at the ridiculousness, the absurdity, the preposterousness of it, and not in a mocking or denigrating and demeaning way, that will completely nullify them and they won't be able to push their bullshit at all. So Shisha says, especially when younger, coping mechanism in 12 step, it's being fearlessly honest. Yes. Mary says, oh, Mary's here too. Brilliant. Hello, Mary. Hello, hello. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear, Mary. Honesty is freedom, and lies and BS is a waste of energy. Yes, absolutely, Mary. That's the point. That's exactly it. And that's what the The real deep point about the bullshit that's lost on bullshitters. They are using bullshit as a shortcut, or at least they believe it's a shortcut. And this is the fatal flaw in their entire bullshit philosophy. They think it's a shortcut, but it isn't. It is a waste of energy, right? And honesty is freedom. Exactly. They don't realize that that bullshit is a prison, right? Exactly. And being fearlessly honest, that's the key. We need to have courage when it comes to honesty and ourselves. It's very, very, very powerful. So yes, yes. Oh, I love your comments. You guys are awesome. All right, so our timing is actually pretty good here. We've got two little sections, and then we come to it. Not that, I mean, I'm happy to go all day, but just since we said 2 hours. So let's read this last part here. The big deal of understanding. The preferred solution to cancer lies in prevention, right? Well, it's very obvious. We like to say the obvious and make the obvious obvious because, of course, as we're so fond of saying, the obvious isn't obvious until it's obvious. You might say, yeah, it's obvious. Okay, but it wasn't obvious 2 seconds ago, right? It's only obvious once it becomes obvious. So the preferred solution to cancer lies in prevention. The preferred solution to the cancer of bullshit, likewise, lies in prevention. A bullshitter's tricks and methods are many. The entire subject doesn't follow neatly from A to Z or to Z. Rather, all the component elements cross-connect with each other. They come to a full understanding. To come to a full understanding is to also fully understand the psychology and motivations of the bullshitter. Bullshit is a big deal, intimately connected to the manipulation it really is, and closely linked to ego, especially its extreme form, narcissism. These are the main motivating factors. Both ego, narcissism, and manipulation have dishonesty as their core. Both attempt getting something for nothing. Both are shortcut mindset. The intricacy of the relationships between bullshit, ego, and manipulations are complex, but we will lay out all the various aspects in detail throughout each chapter. To fully understand, we need to glimpse the complexity from many angles. At first, only seeing a partial view, and thus a full understanding won't yet be ours. The individual chapters contain connecting overlap. In each chapter, when delving into the depths of that particular aspect of bullshit and the bullshitter, we use the other aspects of understanding. And as we go along, the connection and interactions become more and more obvious until it leads to that understanding from which we simply know and recognize what's going on without needing to remember an explanation. Let me read that last part again.
Yes,
so this last. The individual chapters contain connecting overlap. In each chapter, when delving into the depths of that particular aspect of bullshit and bullshitters, we use the other aspects of understanding. And as we go along, the connections and interactions become more and more obvious until it leads to that understanding from which we simply know and recognize what's going on without needing to remember any explanations. Once we know the motives, the logics, the rationales, justifications, and substantiations of bullshit and the bullshitters, we'll simply know and see right through their preposterousness. Therefore, we deliberately repeat the various angles of understandings and key concepts relating to bullshit throughout the book, allowing a thread to form, enabling a learning to take place which isn't dependent on remembering. We aim to come to a thorough understanding, for it's only when we understand the bullshitter from the inside that we're able to successfully spot deception. Then there's more to the entirety of bullshit, a knowing which will come through in the appropriate detailed insights of the various chapters. The chapters needn't be read in any particular order except for the first and the last two. All right, so the point here is to say it again, is that we have to have some trust that at first the things may seem a lot and we're coming at things that are, there's this mass and it might seem a bit overwhelming, but we have to just trust and persist. And as we go on, things will fall into place and all of those connections, and we'll start to know without knowing, without needing to remember, because we'll be understanding. And that's very powerful. And I suspect, Bina, you started to say something, an agreement that you've experienced personally, You've experienced this process of, at first there's all this massive stuff coming in, and you just persisted and it started to connect, and then it all fell into place, and now you know without needing to remember. Yes?
Actually, yes. This is. I was laughing when you were reading that, because this is what happened with me.
Yes.
Because I was
Okay,
doing.
now just for context, sorry, Bina, to interrupt you. Just for context, this happened in the context of the way of impeccability, not in the bullshit context.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
In a different context, in learning everything that is entailed in the way of impeccability. But it is learning a complex, connected, interconnected subject matter, right? A large thing, like understanding bullshit. It's a large overview, awareness, understanding. So we're talking now. You are going to share your process of learning and understanding and being aware of complexity, right, Bina?
Yes, exactly. And when you were reading this, and you said that okay, there are no like A to Z things and rules to understand, to identify the BSMN, but you will understand. It is like empowering and giving a tool to understand at the first spot that okay, this is going to be BS or BSMN. So it's no need to have explanations or rule predefined list or something. Okay, these are the rules, and this woman is just falling in this category. No, you will understand by your thought process, by your awareness. Actually, you will understand. You will recognize
Yes.
without having any list. Oh, that's good. It's really cool.
Right.
It's really
Right.
cool, because
Right.
it is empowering. It is really empowering.
Yes.
Sometimes we read books, and we read like in reading a manual, and you said, okay, these are the
Exactly.
buttons. Okay, this is. Other than that, you know nothing.
And it doesn't quite work that way. And we have to
Yes.
understand that in the beginning it's kind of fuzzy, but we just have to persist, and then it all falls into place.
Oh, oh yes, yes.
Pleasure, Donna. And it's all good. It's a good time, Donna. We've got one little paragraph to read still, and then we're done anyway. So Shisha says, this will make our understanding second nature. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you,
Oh
Shisha.
yes.
Well,
Oh yes.
that's what we aim for. We aim
Yes.
for that, to be
Thank you,
our
Donna.
understanding, to be our second nature. So, all right,
Thank
let's.
you, Donna.
And
Yes.
what, Bina?
I said thank you, Donna, because this is something what really I want to say.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right, right. Okay, no problem. So let's just read this last paragraph and then we can chat about it. So that we're done with, because that's chapter one, you see. So let's just
Mhm.
finish up. The bullshit of BS. We can see our we can see our differing attitudes towards this form of lying through how we use the term BS and bullshit. BS is socially sanctioned. It's okay, acceptable, mild, non-offensive, no problem. But bullshit is an ugly term, not used in polite society nor on mainstream TV. It's actually banned. It's really interesting. It's a banned word. Like you can't say it on mainstream TV. These different attitudes represent our general mindset when it comes to bullshit. The benign version and the ugly truth. We want bullshit to just be BS, but it isn't. Bullshit is ugly. It's not only unpleasant, but harmful. Bullshit is nothing but lying. It may be lying in indirect ways, but it's still lying. When we consider the intent behind the bullshit, the matter is clarified. The intent is to deceive. There's no getting away from this disturbing reality. Deception is serious. So is bullshit. We can't be fooled by packaging. We can kid ourselves into trying to believe bullshit is just BS. But it's a big deal, a very big deal. Understanding and dealing with apparently benign lying for what it really is, matters a great deal if we care about anything more than superficiality. The more we okay bullshit, the more we end up living in a hollow, deceitful, unreal, crappy world. No thanks. There's much we can do when it comes to bullshit. And it's to this end our book is directed. The remedy lies close to home, seeing and dealing with the bullshit in our everyday lives. This is where we can make a profound difference. All right, so our closing quote here is, why cancer and bullshit? Because both are insidious, both unnoticeable initially as a threat, both slowly eating their way into our lives, both causing more and more harm. Both need to be stopped early on before they take over, before it's too late.
Yes.
Oh, just letting that settle. That's a very
Yes.
powerful.
Yes.
That has a deep profoundness to it. That's huge, you know. So that when we really understand this, and the trick is to look a little bit past the surface, and that's we do by looking at intent. When we look at the intent of bullshit, we say, "Oh my goodness, oh man, wow, this intent is not benign. It is to manipulate. It is to deceive. How is that okay? How is that cool? How can we say, oh, it's just bullshit? It's just BS. Even if we say, oh, it's just BS and we're being polite, right? It's still an intent to deceive and to manipulate and to gain power and dominance and bullying and all of that. How is it okay? How is it an intent to deceive and to manipulate? How is that okay? It's not. It absolutely cannot be. And when we see BS and bullshit as deception, as manipulation, it changes everything because we start to understand the underlying intent. That is not a nice intent, right? When you are bullshitting, you are have an intent to deceive, and that is not cool. That is not nice. That is not okay. It's not acceptable. We cannot sanction it. We can't say, "Oh, it's just a nothing." No, deception is a big deal. How the hell are we going to live with a society and a world that where we are sanctioning and saying, "Oh, deception is okay"? And manipulation and the negativity of dominance, which leads to bullying and all the other horrid stuff that comes with it. It all starts from there. It all starts with a deliberate intent to deceive. When you're bullshitting, there's nothing that's undeliberate about it. You don't accidentally bullshit.
Yes.
Think
Yes.
of that for a moment. I mean, how huge is that, right? Implications.
Yes.
Implications. That's why we so love implications. Now you say, oh, you know what? Somebody's bullshitting. Okay, we might have written it off because we've been societally trained to say, oh, it's just a bullshit, it's just BSing. So then if I point out, yes, but that's something that he has to deliberately do. He's not accidentally bullshit. Oh, now you bring intent into it. Oh, I never thought of it that way. Now that you mentioned that he's doing this deliberately, wow, that changes the whole dynamic, right?
Yes.
Now somebody is intentionally, with conscious awareness, looking to deceive you. That's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different ballgame, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it
That's
is.
huge.
Even without.
That's so huge. That's so huge. Uh,
Yes.
Shisha and Mary and maybe Donna, if you're still there, and just to wrap up and just from an overview, any comments that you'd like to share, just so we can. Yes, we will, Shisha. We will do this again next week at the same time. Correct. Yes, yes. I do want to because I do want to read the whole book. So it is something that's an ongoing thing that we will do. So it will take a while, but it doesn't matter. It's worthwhile because it allows for in the interim, during our day-to-day lives to see how this connects, and then next week when we come back, and each successive week, the interactivity will be more interactive as we share how this connects to our daily lives and yes, how it applies to our personal growth. That is the bottom line of what we're about, particularly in the context of the group. It's about self-awareness, self-improvement, self-discovery, right? And we want to discuss that. So we are not just doing this in terms of dealing with bullshit in itself. Yes, bullshit is a mechanism, but it's about self-growth. That's the point and purpose of it all. So when we come back in the discussion, as I say, how did I use the awareness? How did I use the discernment? How am I growing? How is my awareness expanding? How is my understanding developing and connecting? So yeah, we will do this as a regular. Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So where can I get the book? I'm still picking out the pieces of a narcissist. This book seems like yes, absolutely, Rachel. It absolutely will, and you can find it on Amazon. And it just putting out BS, the way it's typed there in that, and it will come up. Uh, I will put a link to the Amazon link in comments. I'm not on my main computer where I have that link bookmarked, but I will do so. I'll put it in comments. So my pleasure, Mary. Thank you for attending and joining. As always, Mary, I just love it, and you always have you contribute a lot. And thank you as well, Shisha and Rachel for joining. And again, next time, guys, that, to join on Zoom like Bina has, to be part of the discussion if you want to. I'm just saying, I would love that, because it's quicker and smoother, and that you can respond more in real time and share your stories. It's not just about me reading the book. Yes, that is important, but it's about hearing your stories. That's very powerful. To hear you guys' stories, that's where. So Rachel, to come on, and again, you don't have to show video. You can just be like Bina, just a voice. It doesn't matter. I mean, my ugly face is enough. Unfortunately, people can only see that, but oh well, we just have to live with that. So I'm just saying, you don't have to come on video, but to share, to speak, and it just goes quicker a little bit, and it's a lot smoother. But either way, your participation, it's really magical to me, and I truly appreciate it very much. And you even like Mary, you just you've been in other Facebook lives where you participated more, but just even one comment, it's profound. It makes a big difference. So it's huge. So I love it when you guys participate and interact. So I'm just saying, going forward, that we can make this even more interactive, to truly be a discussion, because that's what it is. This isn't me reading the book. It's a discussion. It's an interactive reading. So it's a book discussion, like a book club, I guess, in a way. So to answer your question again, Rachel, as soon as we're done here, I'll go and I'll put the link in comments, the link to Amazon. But yeah, if you just type in out BS, or I'll just type it there real quick. With that exclamation mark, it'll come up. So out BS exclamation mark. And it should come up right away. Now there is an older copy that the original publisher, they kind of messed it up a little bit, so it's out of print, but there are two versions, so just look for the one that's still in. So just have to persist. If it doesn't come up with the title, then put in our author names, especially Elevia's name, and DeNobelia. And DeNobelia is one word. That's what the publisher got wrong the first time. DeNobelia. He spelled it as two words. DeNobelia. Okay. So if you put her name, dang it. There we go. If you put any Elevia's name like that, that also brings it right up. But I'll put the link in, but just in case you're in a hurry to do that right away. Or you forget to, or you off Facebook maybe or whatever, and just remember the name and then the title. So it should come up. So let me know, Rachel, if you succeed in getting the book. It's no problem. If there's any hassles, let me know, and I'll make sure you get connected. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any closing thoughts, overview perspective? So we're right on time. Perfect. How's that?
Okay. Thank you so much, Shisha, Mary, Donna, Rachel, Phil. Okay, I remember all the names.
I love it. I love it. And thank you, Bina. You're a fabulous co-host, by the way. So I'm looking forward to do this, more regularly. You are really most excellent as a co-host. And again, Mary, Rachel, Donna, I know you guys, and I've interacted with you. And same Shisha, the same thing. If you come on the Zoom, I don't know, maybe you're reluctant to, but in the same way Bina used to be reluctant, and look at her now, she's fabulous. In the same way, you guys will be fabulous too. Just trust yourself, right? I mean, Bina, I remember when you first came on Zoom, well, like a bit hesitant and reluctant, and awkward, and it's like, man, and trust. We have to trust ourselves, and we have to persist. We have to persist through that awkwardness. That's learning. Learning is always awkward in the beginning, and it's never quite 100%. We just have to persist past that, and then we get to, it's not a big deal, right? Like now, it's just fun for you to be on Zoom. It's not a big deal, right, Mina?
Sorry?
I say now it's fun for you to be on Zoom.
Always. Me and Donna, we were chatting even after you. We were just chatting together, and we had a good time. Real good time on Zoom.
I heard some of that, and it made my heart so happy. I don't know why, but you guys enjoying each other and chatting together by yourself. Oh, it made me so happy. Yeah, so good. Oh, yeah. So yes, hopefully we'll have Rachel. Rachel missed yesterday. She was trying to get there, but she was too late. So next
Yeah.
time, Rachel, again, watch for those emails that I send out for the Zoom sessions for the Wave Impeccability program. That's what we're talking about now. Shisha, Mary, if you guys want to participate in that, let me know. You're more than welcome. We'll make space for you guys, no problem. So it's something that's very profound. Donna's back. Brilliant, brilliant. I'm just saying, Donna, I was saying about how an awesome co-host Bina is, right? And same thing, Donna. I know from chatting to you that if you come on Zoom and participate and share, man, it will be awesome, right? And so we're just saying that it's something that we might feel awkward about in the beginning, but we just persist, and now it's no big deal. And look at Bina, it's like she's in a whole different world simply because she persisted. And you have to appreciate that in yourself, Bina, that you did persist. You didn't allow the initial awkwardness to inhibit you and to constrain you and prevent you from keeping going. You persisted, you kept going, and the impossible became possible, right?
Not only persistence, also acceptance that, oh yes, I just made some blunders. I was not really really impeccable and appropriate at some point, and I accept that, and I just become aware of it, and then I accept it, and I start doing this again.
Exactly.
So it's amazing.
Exactly. And you know what? When it comes to blunders, awkwardness, we stumble a little bit, we don't express clearly. So bloody what? Else bells. You see people who do this, like you watch professionals on TV, presenters. They make mistakes, and they don't. What they do is they don't get stressed by it when they do. So they just carry on. It's not a problem. I remember I had an uncle who played in a famous band, well, famous at the time. A nationally recognized, well-known band. One of the top bands in the country. And he said, when you're on stage, you can pretty much do anything. It doesn't really matter because people can't actually see when you make mistakes. For the most part, they're so listening to the entirety that the mistakes just go by them. So it doesn't matter. It's not an issue. You don't have to be perfect. And he demonstrated this to me. He showed it to me on the live concert. He just stopped playing.
Wow.
He just stopped playing. He played bass guitar. He just stopped playing, and like nobody noticed. And he just carried on again. It's like, oh, well. It didn't matter. So he made the point that when you come to things that are live, especially, you can do what the hell you like, and you've got a lot of leeway, and don't worry about it. And it's again, you make a mistake, so what? It's when you get stressed and embarrassed and awkward. That's when your mistake becomes noticeable. If you just say it's no big deal, you just carry on. It's no big deal. So we determine how others relate and connect to the mistakes, right? So we determine that. So if we treat them as no big deal, then they are no big deal. And then also we train our brain to say, you know what? I'm going to make a mistake. So what? I just carry on, and it's no big deal. But if I train my brain to think a mistake is a big deal, and I'm awkward, and I'm embarrassed, and all this, then I show it, and I flush, and I stumble, and now you turn it into this big calamity, right? So we also have to understand how emphasis trains the brain and how we can leverage and use that. So we have to just realize too that learning is about, at first we don't quite know, and we kind of feeling our way around, and then we get familiar, and then it becomes easier, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. So at first it's always a little awkward, but that's part of learning, and we have to get past that first stage and actually implement and apply. That is the point, because here's the other power. If we persist, if we implement, and we get past that little bit of awkwardness, and then we make an iteration, we update, we fine-tune, and we improve, and we keep improving, and we make a few more, and we keep fine-tuning. That process, when we do that, that is the application of learning. And that is self-proof to us. And it's a major part of the, it's in one of the modules, it's a session on its own, self-proof and self-testing. When we persist and we get to the point where, like you, Bina, in terms of participating on a live Zoom, right? Yes. Where you now are comfortable with it. You now have proven to yourself, you've proven emphatically to yourself, you, Bina, now know as a fact that you can do something that in the beginning you weren't sure you could do, that you felt awkward about, uncomfortable about, that you thought, oh, I can't do this and all that nonsense. Now you know you can, right? So now, in the future, if there comes up something, say, hey, I'm not quite sure, I don't have experience with this, you can say, hey, you know what? I remember when it came to being on live Zooms and being, being in a session and in essence being a co-presenter, which you were today, I can do it. It's no big deal. I could do it then, so I can do it in this new thing. Yes, I know it might be a bit awkward and uncomfortable in the beginning, and I'm going to have to learn, and maybe make a few mistakes, but so what? It was never a big deal, and it wasn't a big deal then, and it's not going to be a big deal now. I can do it, so all I have to do is just do and get past that initial stage of learning and adapting and adjusting and all that. That is incredibly empowering, right, Bina?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. This
So
is
we digressing somewhat into the wave impeccability course, but then everything is program, everything is course. So
yes,
just using the opportunity to illustrate this profound. Since Donna came back to, because Donna, you feel the same thing. I suspect, right, in terms of right, exactly what Shisha says. She's widened her comfort zone precisely, and that's self-proof though. That's how we widen our comfort zone. It's not enough to just believe we can do it. We have to actually prove it to ourselves through application. Without the application, it's all meaningless. So very, very powerful, very simple thing. Now, you don't have to mean that this is everything for everybody. You don't have to come on live, and it's not that you have to go and be in public and all that. May not be a thing, but it's more the point of the abstract of persisting through what is uncomfortable. This may apply to something very simple, like dealing with bullshitters. Same point. In the beginning, that awareness, to show the awareness and not to hide your awareness of the bullshit, that they are bullshitting. In the beginning, that's going to be uncomfortable and awkward. But we have to just persist and get slightly more comfortable with it and more. And as Shisha says, to widen our comfort zone and to prove to ourselves that we can. Because the more we prove that we can learn and that we can actually apply and do what we've learned, the more we empower ourselves and the more we flesh out our self-confidence and the more we are at ease with ourselves, because we come to prove to ourselves that we can do, we can learn, we can apply, and we can do it for real. And we become more and more real each time we do this. So it's huge, it's massive. It's a very, very big deal.
thank you so much. Thank you
Oh,
so much, guys.
pleasure. Thank you. Truly, I do this with you guys. So please understand, Shisha, Donna, Mary, Rachel, everybody, this is a collaborative effort. And in collaboration, as we love to say, 1 + 1 + 1 equal more.
More.
Yeah?
Yes.
And there's always more. There's always
Thank
more.
you so much, sir.
Pleasure.
Okay, because
Uh,
now it's now for me.
yes.
Thank you.
It's quite magical, and I will now stop the screen share, and we'll end the Facebook Live, and then we'll also end the Zoom. So I have to see how to end the Facebook. I don't remember, they had a peculiar way to end live. So,
Okay. Good
all right.
luck for that.
I
Bye.
think I just have to stop the thing. So I'm going to leave the meeting, so maybe that will end the whole deal.
Oh
So
yes.
I'll talk to you guys next week, and then of course, those of you in the program, the Wave Impeccability, we'll talk obviously. Brilliant. All right, bye bye, Bina, and bye bye everybody else. Thank you for coming.